All right, boys and girls, we're back here for the second time today, and we are talking to one of the greatest writers for cartoons, one of my favorite TV shows, Ed, and Eddy. Welcome to the What's in My Head podcast, Mike Kubat. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm very happy to be here. So thanks.
I mean, I'm glad. Sorry, I just hit puberty. I'm glad that you're. I'm glad that you're here with me, man. So I had Matt Hill on earlier, voice of the dumb one, the Ed, right, or the
Yeah.
lovable, right? Uh,
Yeah.
how did you get onto? We're just going to get right into it, right, straight to the meat and potatoes. How did you get on this project? How did you get on Ed, Ed, and Eddy?
Um, it's a little embarrassing because I know a lot of people work really, really damn hard to get into this industry and get their break, and they go to school and they study and they do all this stuff to prepare themselves for the opportunity where they can show what they can do and stuff. But I got this job because I knew Danny Antonucci when I was 15 years old. Literally, he was a friend of my brother's, and I knew him from when I was like a kid or the teenager. And then as I got out of high school and became an adult and decided I was going to dabble a little bit into writing, I kept in touch with him. I didn't really write at the time or didn't have any credentials or experience really, but I called him up out of the blue just to see what he was doing. And he, of course, is the creator of Ed, Ed, and Eddy. And he just said, "Hey, I just got this show on Cartoon Network." I said, "Hey, I want to be a writer." He said, "Okay, here you go," and put me through to the story editor, and I got the job. It was literally that simple and that easy, and a little embarrassing to admit.
I see you're wearing a Plank T-shirt there, my
I
friend.
I am. Look at that, eh?
Beautiful. One of my, I don't know if you wrote the episode, but one of my favorite episodes is when Jimmy breaks bad. Did you write that episode?
No, I didn't. No, that's a good episode, though. I know which one you're talking about.
It's fantastic for him just to him take that greaser mentality, slicking his hair back. The only thing he was missing, and it was Cartoon Network. The only thing he was missing was a switchblade, and then to him just to snap on scene. The only thing that would took it over.
Well, we did get a lot. We did get away with a lot of stuff back then, so it's all too possible that we could have tried that or wanted to do that, but it just didn't end up in the final project, right?
I mean, well, if you guys, first off, Danny is a hard man to track down, so I'm still working on him. Hopefully, he'll see this and he'll want to be a part of it because my goal is to have everybody. Like I said, I got the cartoon. I'm representing real hard and heavy today. This cast alone or this amalgamation of cartoons was such a huge part of my childhood, as well as I'm introducing all of them to my son now. He's a 10-year-old. And whenever he asks me who I'm talking to, it's always weird the characters he connects with. So, do you know who Rob Paulson is?
Yeah, I'm familiar with him. I don't know him personally though.
Okay, so I interviewed him the other day, and most people will know him from Raph 87 cartoon or Yakko from Animaniacs. And I
Sure.
brought the story up to him the other day when I was talking to him for this, and then I was like, my kid knows you because of a meme, because of a GIF, him offering or asking for a croissant. Nothing compared to what I know him for, but it's always crazy seeing what kids know your characters for. It was just it's insane. So
Well, hey, I can speak from experience. It's always nice to find a fan, no matter how they found you or what way they found you or what it is that they liked of yours. It's always really redeeming and validating when someone says to you, "I love that show you worked on," or they'll recite a line that you wrote, or they'll remember a gag that you remembered like coming up with. And that's just an incredibly awesome experience. So thank you, thank your son, and thank everybody else who loves cartoons.
I mean, there's a lot of things going around, but without you guys, we wouldn't really have anything to talk about, man. So this is the standing ovation. Take your bow, whatever you got to do, man. You guys are doing the Lord's work over there. When you said you had knew Danny since you were like 15, is that what you said?
Yeah, I met him when I was 15 years old.
Now, who were the characters in his life that were created up here for Ed, Ed, and Eddy? Because that just seems like he had a person for each role.
Some of that he did. I want to say everybody in Ed and Eddy was based on a few things. A lot of the cul-de-sac kids were based on kids that he grew up with. These are people I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah. I didn't grow up with him. He's a few years older than me. But so a lot of like Jimmy was based, I think, on a cousin of his that he had, and a couple of the other characters, like the Canker sisters. There used to be some girls that lived in the neighborhood that used to scare the shit out of them. So they were kind of like older girls who were like really mature. And when you're like a little boy, that's a bit intimidating, right? So he always remembered that. So the inspiration for them is drawn upon that. And then as far as Ed and Eddy in particular, I think a lot of that was just based on personal experience. He was raising two boys at the time, so a lot of their stuff came from, you know, being a dad and dealing with the crazy shit you deal with when you have kids. And I think the only other one that's kind of like an amalgamation of a lot of different things was Rolf, because Rolf was like the immigrant, and Danny comes from an immigrant family, and I can't come from an immigrant family, so he and I would spend a lot of times kind of comparing all the gross food we ate when we were kids that nobody else ate, and how all the other kids thought we were weird and stuff. And that all that kind of was kind of seeded into Rolf and hardwired into Rolf. So a lot of it's just a range of different experiences and things, based a lot of it mostly on his childhood, though, all on his childhood.
So where's your people from? Where's your family from? You said you ate some weird stuff.
My parents are from the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia as it was at the time. Yeah, they emigrated in like 1968, and I was born a year later.
Yeah. First generation? Are you an only child, or?
No, I got an older brother and sister. Everyone in my family was born in Europe except me. I was born in Canada, eh? Can't you tell?
I'm very sorry about that, you know. So
yeah, I'm sure you're really sorry.
There's a couple things that I just absolutely love that are from Canada. Ed and Eddy being one of them. Then sure. you've got Tim Hortons being the second one. You guys have got poutine, which is one of my favorite dishes of all time. Anytime you can put gravy and cheese on any damn thing, I'm all in, right? So,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, fat kid growing up. I love food. Are you in? No, you're a West Coast guy, so you're in LA right now, right?
Yeah, I'm just a little south of LA. Yeah.
You miss the winters up there in Canada at all?
I miss Canada a lot. I still have family and friends up there. I miss nature. I used to go fishing every year up there into the middle of British Columbia. I have a couple fishing buddies of mine, so we would drop into these like lakes with nothing and no one around in a bajillion miles, and it was just the most awesome experience ever. So we used to do that. It was a yearly thing actually until this COVID stuff happened. So we're all missing out on the traveling and the nature and stuff, but I do hike still about once a week. And I do try to get out where there's some trees. And I mean, I'm pretending because, you know, I live in freaking California. I'm never, you know, not 3 miles away from a Starbucks, but sometimes if I, you know, really entrench myself in like a deep valley with some trees around, I can pretend that, you know, I'm somewhere else.
I was stationed out in San Diego, so I can kind of see. It's funny. You can go 2 hours in any direction, really, from California, and you're in some kind of different climate or different kind of terrain. So it's a weird state to live in for sure. I've met some interesting people from there. However, it's one of the craziest and prettiest states I've also lived in as well. So
sure. Well, it's big. You got everything there, right? You got all, like you said, all different climates and terrains. It's pretty cool for that, but it's also so damn big, right?
That, and there's so many damn people there. But what I loved so much about Southern California was, with the exception of 1 week a year, it was damn near 75, you know, degrees year round. You had no mosquitoes, which was fantastic. Coming from Florida, you walk outside, you're getting just annihilated by mosquitoes. So it was a nice little change of pace. But anyways, I like talking a whole bunch of different shit. That's why this one's called What's in My Head. On these crazy little tangents. But how many episodes did you write or did you come on right at the start and then you started writing, or was there a backstory kind of already?
When I came on the show, they had already kind of figured out and sussed out the first few episodes. I was working with a guy by the name of John O'Howard. He was like the lead writer and story editor, just the head writer. And I think we were a couple episodes in when I came on board, and then, I basically got thrown to him, and, hi, John. Oh, hi, Mike. Okay, we're writers now. And then, and then we just started to come up with story ideas and stuff. And then it kind of escalated from there. For the longest time, Jono and I wrote probably like, for the first couple seasons, at least I want to say 80% of all the episodes, if not more. Jono more than me, because Jono was working in-house. I was freelancing at the time. I was the only person on production that was living outside of the studio. I was living here in California and working on the show from down here.
Oh, so you guys, the studio, it was actually shot up there, or?
All the pre-production and production stuff was done in Canada, in Vancouver, in Danny's studio. It's called AKA Cartoons. And everyone that was working on the show for the production was working in a studio, in a building. It was an in-house job. I was the only one of the writers or people that was regularly working. I gotta, parse this out a little bit, because there were some freelance guys, there was other people doing freelance stuff, and of course the animation is done overseas, and there is a lot of moving parts to making a cartoon. But I was probably the only like regular person in the capacity of a regular writer to be working freelance. Everybody else was working in-house.
So I can only imagine, as far as like what I've experienced. I work in a kitchen, so I've
very similar.
Yeah, I've said it numerous times, and people fucking hate it, man. I'm a chef, but I try to equate something to what somebody else is doing. That way I can understand it up here. My head works really weird. Sorry, hard to say. But it was funny seeing, a whole bunch of crazy shit going on the first day, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Did you feel like that when you got pretty much thrown to the wolves? You're like, I wanted to be a writer. I don't know what's going on now.
I was too dumb to know better, which is essentially how you learn anything, right? You don't realize the ramifications or consequences of what you're doing. You don't realize you're working on a multi-million-dollar investment for a fledgling studio that's going to be seen by millions of people all over the world. You don't know that. You're just like, oh, here's some characters. Let's write some funny shit. And then so we just sat down and did that. I'm more pressured now knowing what is involved than I was way back then, because I didn't know any better. This was like, oh, let me try this for a bit, see how that works out. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of experimental stuff, but I didn't know anything about making cartoons really until I got that job and kind of worked with the artists and worked with the sound people and actors and musicians and editors and all that stuff. And that all kind of fell into place. And when I saw how many people were involved and what an intricate, complex endeavor it is, then I really gain an awareness and an appreciation of all the moving parts and everyone involved. And it's kind of nice because it starts with someone like me. I start by putting the words on a blank piece of paper, and from that it cascades all the way down the pipeline to hundreds, if not thousands, of people that work on this thing. It's pretty amazing. It's like a drop of water that collects in a stream and goes to the ocean.
Now, I know you said when you got on, they had already done a couple episodes at that point. Is it typical for a show, for whenever you guys start writing a script, you start writing episodes, you start writing out a story arc, do you guys already have character design at that point? Like, obviously this is a different situation because you came on a few episodes into it. But do they generally have, what the characters look like, what their personalities are, and then you try to fit pieces to that character?
Well, when I say a couple episodes in, I mean a couple episodes written. The production was far from that. They were storyboarding. It takes, from the time I submit a finished script and get final approval on it, it will be a year later until the cartoon is actually done. Yeah, typically a year. I mean, sometimes it's less, but on the average, it's about 1 year. Yeah. So when I say a couple episodes are done, a couple episodes were written. We had what's called a Bible story or a show pack that had the designs of the characters, and talking with Jono and having conversations with Danny Antonucci, I got a feel for the characters and stuff like that. I'm trying to remember if we had actual voices yet, if the actors had done the voices yet, but I do distinctly remember getting like a file of some kind, which back then might have been, who knows, he probably sent me like a VHS tape, or who knows. I mean, this is like the late 90s, so bear with me here. So mid to late 90s. So we did get tapes and stuff so we could hear voices, we could see pieces of animation, so we could start seeing what it looked like. But that was much later, like that was well into the process. We kind of just winged it, and Danny was the final say on everything. So whatever he had in his head, whatever idea he had for these characters to say and be like, and their voices, that was all in his head. And then it all kind of came out and into play as we got further and further along into it.
Now, with these characters, do you remember like what had they already established the entire cast as far as what characters they wanted in the show, or were they still trying to fledge out some of those ideas?
No, I still somewhere have an original Bible somewhere, and all the characters that are in the show were in that original Bible, were the original characters that Danny came up with from the get-go.
Do you know how long from the time that he had the idea that he wanted to get this done that you guys hooked up and started, just writing shit out? Or was it, because I know you said a year for a script, that seems like a long time, so I didn't know if it
Yes.
was a concept.
Yeah, I know he was pitching the idea to a couple places, and I know there was a bidding war on it, and because there was a couple studios at the time that really wanted to have Danny jump on board. One of them, I believe, I'm pretty sure one was Nickelodeon. The other one, I want to say, may have been Disney, but I'm not sure. The problem was even though they offered him a lot of money, they wanted to take the control away from him, and he said, fuck you, no, I'm not doing that. And which is very typical of him. And he ended up signing with Cartoon Network because they basically said, you can do whatever you want, and we're going to just be hands off. You create your show. And that's how you got Ed, Edd and Eddy and Powerpuff Girls and, Courage the Cowardly Dog and, Kids Next Door and Cow and Chicken and all that stuff. Because back then, our artists were given license to do whatever the hell they wanted, and it was just assumed. It's kind of like, if your car is broken, you find the best mechanic, you give them your car, and then you step back, right?
Yeah.
That's how they used to make cartoons back then, right?
Yeah.
They don't do that now, but back then that's how they did it. So he got a lot of freedom, and he got a lot of creative, all the creative control was on him. He had final say on everything, and that's what he wanted. So that's what he took.
Well, I mean, you could definitely tell because, like I said, I've got a 10-year-old, and watching some of the stuff he watches, and I talked about this with Matt earlier today, everything is such a cookie cutter cartoon at this point. You've got, especially on Cartoon Network these days, there's 4 or 5 cartoons that are out there that look almost identical, like the same creators, and they're all different people, different voice cast, different animators, different studios, but everything looks the same. And that was so unique about Cartoon Network from the time cartoon, or what a cartoon, when that whole what would you call it,
the Renaissance is what it's called.
like I like the cartoons that hit home to me specifically are those late 80s cartoons, from A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, and then you've got some of those movies like Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. So that age right there. And then you mix that with some, and this one always gets shit on, I don't know why, but Fantastic Max was another one. I'm not sure if you remember that one. That a little baby that goes into space and stuff like that, battles aliens, all the way up until, I want to say, at least 2008, 2009, was 12 years worth of, holy shit, these things are going to change cartoons and nothing is going to be the same anymore.
Yep.
Where do you think, or why do you think that they've came to a more hands-on approach? Because it seemed like it was working 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And
without trying to be offensive,
I'm assuming something about parents.
I just find, again, I use the example of the mechanic. There was a day, or let's just say there's certain executives in entertainment, and it's not just cartoons, it's probably in every movies and every form of entertainment there is, that trust creators.
Yeah.
And there's less and less and less of those people around. Back when Ed and Eddy started, there was a gal by the name of Linda Semensky, and I remember meeting her, and I remember talking with her about, you know, because she was shepherding a lot of these early shows that you really like, that you're bringing up and stuff. And I just remember her being very hands off and saying, you know, why would I spend millions of dollars, you know, of the studio's money unless I thought you guys could make this? You know, like, you know, it's like, you have to have faith in the process and faith in the people that are doing it. And if you truly believe they are the best people to be making this product, let them make it. People don't do that these days. A lot of people think that they're all, that's the other thing too. A lot of people think they're creative. And even though they don't have a creative job, they all want to be creative. And what they don't understand is when they get into positions of power, their efforts to be super creative are actually impeding our ability to do our job. And again, I go back to the mechanic. Okay, you hire the mechanic to fix your car, and they go to turn a wrench or turn a bolt or something. You go, no, don't turn that one, turn that one. Who the hell says that to their mechanic? Nobody does, but we do. We deal with that daily. I mean, I just got notes on a draft that I wrote, 9 pages of notes on a draft, and it's like 9 pages of notes that I have to change all this stuff, and it's excessive and it's crazy, but that's normal now. Back then we would get notes, and if they made sense, okay, and if they didn't, we would just ignore them. And there was like a page, 1 page, if
I guess with the entertainment industry, if this is just from a guy looking on the outside looking in, or a fan's perspective, everybody wants to have their name on something. Everybody wants to be like, you know what, I made this cartoon, or I did this scene, and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. With what you were saying, with these guys that think they're creative that aren't creative, it's you're an idiot. Please, if anybody is listening, I hope people will listen. I really do. If you guys are listening, let these fuckers do what they do. They made magic 20 years ago. They're making shit. Not you guys. Most of them are making shit now, 20 years later, and it's nobody's enjoying cartoons really. At least me. I'm enjoying going back and watching the old catalog.
Well, the fact that anyone's enjoying it is a testament to our ability to take all those terrible ideas and terrible notes and make them good. I often call it the executive salad. You get notes and it's like, okay, Mike, here's a t-shirt, here's a hammer, here's a pineapple. Now make a salad. And I have to make a salad somehow. I have to figure out how to make a salad. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But I have to do my absolute best, to the best of my capabilities, to make sure that they have something that they can have for lunch. And it's at some point you get good enough at this that you just make the salad and it's always good. But there's been a few times where I'm just like, geez, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know about this, I'll do it, but you
did. Have you put MacGyver on your resume yet?
No, but sometimes it feels like that.
Sometimes you just gotta turn chicken shit into chicken salad, I guess.
Yeah.
So going back to, like I said, we'll go off on all these little tangents, but it
sure.
is, like I said, I don't give a shit. I'm having fun if nobody else is. You know what I mean?
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters, man. I figure if you do something and you're super either passionate about it, you're super happy about it, hopefully that'll bleed off and then people will see that. But that's
I believe that. Yeah, for sure.
But so going back to some of these characters, because you had some of Rolf is one of my favorite characters of
mine too. Yeah.
The son of a shepherd. Anytime I got a buddy, and I always joke with him. We're in a group chat. We play in D&D on Wednesdays every night with a bunch of us, and he's the old man of the group, right? So I think he's 47 or 46, right? So we always call him 87 or 117, just because he's easy to spin up, right? And he brings up this cartoon specifically, and whenever we talk about it, the first gif or the first meme or the first anything that's said about this show is Rolf, and it's generally the son of a shepherd. Did you guys know how much this guy was going to make people pop? And by pop I mean laugh, or just fucking cry with laughter.
Well, it's hard to say because I mean it's hard to know what your audience is going to laugh at, but I can definitely tell you that while we were in the process of writing Rolf's lines or doing Rolf things or coming up with Rolf ideas, yeah, we would laugh our asses off. We just thought he was hilarious, and he was just another character that was really great, really funny. And the one thing I really liked that I thought Danny did really well with him is we never pegged him to a specific place.
Yeah.
And the reason we did that is so we could make fun of all nationalities. It wasn't just, we weren't just picking on one culture, we picked on all of them. So it was, and that's kind of Rolf. He's like the everyman immigrant. He has all the weird customs and the weird traditions and the weird everything, and says the weirdest shit and eats the weirdest food and has all these like he's easily offended for all the weirdest reasons. And it's just, to us, it was just hilarious, right? We would just laugh and laugh with his antics for sure. Yeah. I'm glad everybody else got got it as well. It's nice when everyone's in on the same joke you are, you know?
Yeah. I meant to bring it up earlier. So I used to have, it's another sidetrack, but it culminates into Ed and Eddy. I used to have a cockatiel, right? His name was Nacho, right? Because he had nacho cheese. Like I said, I've been a fat kid my entire life. I love food. But he had these little rosy cheeks and it looked like nacho cheese. So that's how he got the name Nacho. And with these type of birds, they whistle, right? They talk, they communicate, and all that other stuff. I didn't realize what I was creating with this bird. So in the morning time, I would get up around 6 o'clock. That's when Ed and Eddy would play, and then it would generally be another cartoon that led into something else on Cartoon Network when I was getting ready for school. My bird memorized you guys' theme song with the whistle. So I thought it was cool up until summer hit, right? And I'm out of school and I don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning anymore.
Yeah.
He would start every day at clockwork whistling the Ed and Eddy theme song. So how did that one? That's one of those things. It's you always want to pick something that's got some kind of alliteration or some kind of rhyme, so you can get people to. It's always on their tongue, or they can always recall to it. How did you guys come up with that, or is that out of your realm as far as a writer goes, or do you know how that came about, the theme song?
That was all Danny's creation, and I believe Danny did the whistling as well, and that was based on a song he loved. I believe it's called Big Noise from Winnetka is the name of the song. It's some 30s or 40s big band tune that he loved, and there was a lot of whistling in it, and he always referenced that song. He loved that song, and that was just something he liked, the whistling, and he wanted to put it into the theme. So he worked with the composer, and they kind of put that thing together. But I think he did the whistling on them, I'm pretty sure. And that was done intentionally. That was just his homage to a song he liked once again when he was a kid.
Well, like I said, it kept me up and woke me up. That was my alarm. This is back, kids. We talked about VHS, right? So this is back before cell phones. This is back before, Siri wake me up. Hopefully that doesn't tick that thing off. So it was before all of this stuff. So it was nice having a little Ed and Eddy theme song wake up, or a wake up call type of thing.
Well, if you ever get a chance to talk to Danny, you got to tell him that, because he'll think that's pretty funny.
Yeah, I wanted to. He was the coolest bird ever, right? And he would hang upside down and swing back and forth. He was just a crazy damn bird. He didn't like my brother. My brother and I shared a room. So I would let him out of the cage, and we never clipped his wings because we like to see him fly throughout the house. And he would always fly in circles around the fan when the fan was off, and he would shit every time he flew over my brother's bed. So he'd just litter his pillow with bird shit. Yeah, he was a cool bird, man. But nonetheless, I digress. So with some of these other characters, who was not so much the funnest, but who was the easiest to slip into when you started writing these characters?
Rolf, for sure.
Yeah.
Rolf. Yeah, for me, it was Rolf, because Rolf. I gravitated to Rolf because there was so much of my own upbringing and my own crazy immigrant friends and family and stuff that I could just drop on. So he was really kind of easy to get and understand and get his voice and get his kind of ideas. I really liked writing episodes with him. I wrote a few. And the other one, weirdly enough, I ended up like being the Canker Sisters guy. Like I was always writing Canker Sisters episode. I'm not sure if that was done by design or if it was just a fluke or what, but I ended up writing them a lot and kind of getting into their head. So that was that was fun too. The one character that I absolutely would just shit the bed on every time was Naz. None of us liked writing Naz. We hated writing Naz. We couldn't stand writing her. We could never figure out what to do with her. It was such a pain in the ass working with her.
So how did you, we'll come back to Naz because that's another character. It's not that there's not a character on the show that I don't like, but there are, like you, there's characters you connect with, and there's characters you're like, you know, if she gets hit by a bus, you know, I hope Naz never got hit by a bus, but you know, if it happens, it happens, and you understand. You know, but what was it about, you know, some of those characters like the Canker Sisters that you think you've clicked with?
I think part of it's just having kind of the similar experiences. Like we all have shared experience as kids, and especially growing up in Canada, like we all did. You know, and the Canker Sisters, I mean, there was always like growing up, at least when I was a kid, and this would be, I'm dating myself, pushing myself way back into like, I want to say the mid to late 70s, you know, you'd go to the school to hang out on the swings, and there was always this group of tough looking chicks in the corner. They were all of like 14 or 13 or whatever, smoking cigarettes, like being badasses. And when you were a little boy, they were terrifying, right? Like like they were like the biker gang, you know, in the corner, but they were just like these, you know, prepubescent or teenage girls trying to be tough badasses, right? And in Canada, that was a thing. So when I got the Canker Sisters, it just made me think of a lot. Like I have an older sister, and it just kind of reminded me of some of her friends, and, you know, and just that whole thing of being intimidated and scared of girls. Because I mean, you know, as a boy, you go through a period of your life where you just think girls, what the hell? Like you're like, what is wrong with those girls? Like they're so weird and freaky and scary. And then, you know, you click over and then suddenly you can't think of anything else. But you know, so I loved them for that. It's that it's right on the cusp of when you start as a boy to feel like, I guess, go through puberty and start feeling more of a sexual nature to the other sex or the other side or whoever you're attracted to. But it's before that. You're confused and they scare the shit out of you. And I liked that about them, because it was like these guys had these girls anytime they wanted them, and they were terrified by them. And that's just what little boys do, you know? And then later you're like kicking yourself in the ass going, why didn't Ed hook up with May? You know, like what? You know?
So how did you because when I think of the term canker, I think of herpes, right? That's the first thought that comes to my mind. Did you guys have any blowback? Obviously, they said, hey, man, you guys are the professionals. You do you. Just make it the best you can make. Did you
back then, there wasn't so much pearl clutching and hand wringing about things. So nobody really complained. I mean, no, that's not true. We had a wall of hate mail. There was literally a wall of hate mail for the show, which was hilarious. They made a big collage out of it in the studio. But
still has it. Does somebody?
Yeah, right. But back then, I mean, you know, cankers, I think canker was just a canker story you have in your mouth. It's a nuisance. It's a pain. No one got too deep into it. It was just something that nobody wanted. And so I think just the idea of the sisters being called cankers is like a sore nobody wants. Nobody wants them around. I thought it was pretty funny.
I did too, but like when you think about it, I guess it's just if you're looking, because like I said, cow and chicken, okay, so you don't see cow's ass, but cow had an ass.
Yes.
Right? Shaved ass. And then you had the devil, right? Who puts the devil on Cartoon Network, and you know, and he's just bouncing around on his ass. And then you go to Ed and Eddy, you've got Canker Sisters, you know? So it was just one after the next. And then if you think about it now, none of these cartoons would probably get made today because of those pearl clutchers. You know, and I'm just glad you guys did it back in the, you know, I was going to say back in the.
Yeah, none of that would be allowed today. We'd be hammered so hard on so many things, and it's a shame, you know. Like, you know, it's always so hard because on one level, you know, you want to be cool and you want to represent and you don't want to be exclusive and you want everybody to be part of this wonderful process of creation and stuff and speak with their own voices and their own characters and their own colors and whatever. But on the other, it's art.
Yeah.
Who are you to judge art? If this is like, I just had this discussion with someone the other day about the Joker movie, and there was a lot of blowback on that movie because people said, oh, some angry old white guy again. But it's not. It's a piece of art, and you could either hate it or like it, whatever, but you judge it by the merit of the artist, not by how it affects you. You know, it affects you in the sense that good art should affect you, but you can't shit all over it because you can just say, I don't like that and move on to some art that you do like. So I think back in those days, we didn't have this huge pressure to be politically correct or representative or do all this stuff. So we were a lot freer to say and do what we want. Now, did we probably cross the lines of good taste? Oh, for sure. A lot of times. For sure we did. I mean, because, you know, when you're allowed to, you do. And sure, we could have probably been reeled back a little bit more than we were. Sure. But, you know, in all honesty, at the end of the day, we couldn't make we can't make cartoons like that anymore unless we go to Adult Swim or go straight to feature. There's just no way.
I mean, I wish they would bring back, you know, What a Cartoon or Cartoon under the Adult Swim label, you know, because there is so many especially now. I guarantee you, Danny being one of them, I guarantee you he's got something to say. Even if he's bringing the Ed Boys back, 10 years, I think 2009 was the last time Ed and Eddy was on. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think that was the last time it was on. So I'm pretty sure he's had some shit going on in 11 years that he would love to just get off of his chest or, you know, put through in his art, you know?
Yeah, he does. In fact, a couple of years ago, we were in development on a show with him, Jono and I, and it was a great show. And he had some animation done overseas on it. I believe it was in France or Spain, and it was just amazing. It was amazing, and it was going to be a great cartoon. And we were all hyped and all on board. And it looked like, you know, a major network was going to pick it up, and then crickets. And I don't know what happened to it, and I don't know what's happened since. So it's hard to say. Like, he does have ideas and he's a fantastic artist and he's got a lot of cool stuff. But I don't know if anyone wants to take a chance on it. It's sad. I wish.
When something like that happens, like Matt was talking about, he's writing a book, and then I had brought it. Oh shit! Everybody wants to call when I'm doing. Everybody wants to call when nobody calls me at all during the day when I'm free.
Lies. You're popular.
Shit, I wish. If I could go back and tell my 10-year-old self, 11-year-old self that I'd be sitting here talking and in the same day talking to Ed, and I'd be talking to one of the best writers for this cartoon, I would have kicked the hell out of myself and called myself a nerd. You know, but nobody ever calls unless you're doing something. Your hands are full. Oh man, you're eating a sandwich. Oh man, somebody's calling you. Shit, where were I going with this point? Oh, anyways, Matt, we were talking about Matt, and he was writing a book, and he was talking about self-publishing it. I brought up the idea of a Kickstarter. Never crossed his mind. Is that something that you guys could possibly talk about? Put it on Kickstarter, and fuck, you know, I don't give a shit about Disney, Nick, or any of them. They're all great companies to work for. I'm sure they all have their merits. But if it's something that the fans would want to see, would that be something he would be up for? Or you guys would be up for putting on Kickstarter and letting us fans?
I don't know. I mean, again, that's up to him. And he's always been really adverse about Kickstarter and campaigns like that. He really, you know, I really can't be speaking for him because I don't know for sure. But I do know in the past he hasn't been very warm about funding stuff. He really believes that, you know, the networks and the people who have the buttons or can push the buttons to make something happen, they really should be supporting artists and they should be supporting creativity because that's essentially why they exist. Exactly. And you know, he doesn't feel, my perspective, and I could be totally wrong here, but my perspective is he just doesn't feel like the fans should be doing what the studios are not. He thinks the studios are making a big mistake. And, you know, to a certain extent, I can agree with some of that, but, you know, they're also making a lot of other stuff. I mean, it depends, you know, and they're obviously doing well because, you know, there's tons of shows being made and people are watching them. So it's hard to say, you know, like I wish he was given more of an opportunities to explore some of his ideas, but as of now, it doesn't look like anything's happening.
Well, that's a damn shame, man. There's nothing worse, and I found this out once COVID hit. There is nothing worse because when you lose your job or everything shuts down, you always think, like when I got into this industry, because I loved cooking and because I saw a guy named Emeril Lagasse just hold an entire studio of people captivated with throwing spices over somebody's shoulder or throwing French fries somewhere, right? So it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. And I can't remember who said it or who coined the phrase, but it's always horrible when you know you've got something that's coming from here, or you've got something to say, or you've got something to show, and then you just got nobody that'll listen or nobody will take it on. And that's what it seems like. I mean, like I said, this guy is a fucking genius. And they hit, I don't know what it falls as far as, you know, greatest cartoons of all time. You can go back and look at these lists on Cartoon Network. And I think Powerpuff Girls has been consistently ahead of Ed and Eddy, which is bullshit. It's a fantastic show. Don't get me wrong. It's probably top 5 as far as the what a cartoon, you know, label. But there's no way it's beating Ed, Ed and Eddy. It's beating Courage. It's beating insert Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, or any of these other characters, and they're all the far end, Billy and Mandy. I just think it's one of those things that they like to play into, like girl power, which is perfectly fine. But you know, you got to sit here and you got to give the ovations to the ones that set that bar, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Wish they would get off their high horses and give this man some money, right? But neither here nor there. So, you know, we're still talking Eds and but we talked earlier today, and then you said you were working on Spidey.
Can you Spidey and His Amazing Friends. Yeah, that's on Marvel Animation Studios. Or I believe it's just Marvel Studios now. Anyways, they had some kind of a shakeup or something. I don't know all the politics or the details, but yeah, it's Spider-Man, Ghost Spider, and Spin, it's actually the Spider, I guess, Spider people from the multiverse movies, but it's the Ghost Spider and Spin, which is Miles Morales' character. They're just calling him Spin because it's preschool. They can't call everyone Spider-Man, or like no one will understand. So they had to give them distinct names. So it's those 3 spiders, Spider-Men, Spider-Women, whatever people. God, it's so hard these days to get it right. Anyways, those 3, you know, and then the Rhino and the Doc Ock and all that stuff. But it's like for little kids, so it's not gonna make your Spider-Man fanboy go woo, you know, crazy. It's for really young kids, and kind of just introduce them into the world of Spider-Man and those characters and stuff, and give them something fun and exciting and happy to watch. So it's pretty fun. I'm having a really good time with it. It's good.
How'd you get that gig?
Well, I came off of, I was at Disney for a few years. I was working on Mickey Mouse, Mixed Up Adventures and Roadster Racers and Mickey Mouse's Hot Diggity Dog, all sorts of Mickey Mouse stuff. And then that kind of ran its course, and they were in development on some other shows. And I was let go in January of this year, and I'm kind of twiddling my thumbs going, well, shit, what am I going to do now? And then COVID happened, and I'm like, oh shit, what am I really going to do now? Because now it's like, this is crazy. I don't even know how to go and get work, you know? And then out of the blue, I got a call from Marvel Studios, and they're like, you want to write the Spider-Man show? And I've never worked for Marvel. I didn't know these people. At that time, I wasn't even sure how they got a hold of me. And I said, oh yeah, sure, I'll do it. And again, and it came out of the blue. What I found out in hindsight was my name, because I was kind of like floating around there and I wasn't assigned to a show, my name was popping up with a lot of different executives and creative people at Disney. And they were like trying to find a place for me. And eventually, because Disney bought Marvel, they were looking for writers down there, and my name kind of floated down there. And then that's kind of how I got on board. So it all happened unbeknownst to me, without my knowledge, without me doing anything really. It just kind of, my name kind of floated around, and I landed in the gig.
It's funny how that works sometimes, man. You're not even looking for anything. you wanted to be a writer, and then you got put on one of the greatest ones on cartoon just by throwing your name or throwing your hat, whatever you want to throw into the ring. And
it was very fortuitous, let's just say, because if not, I might be an accountant right now or something. You know what I mean?
Nobody wants to sit here and crunch numbers for a living. Everybody would much want to draw, write, do anything with cartoons over numbers. Unless you're into that shit, it's 2020. Do what you want to do. But
sure,
I'd much rather watch cartoons and laugh than look at numbers and cry. But that's just
I'm with you on that one. I can't. I mean, it's a super fun job, but it's not an easy job. It's still a job sometimes. So, but if you get to have a job, you're not doing too bad having a job like this.
Everybody's got something, and everybody's gravitating towards something. So you might as well gravitate towards something you like, right? So
absolutely.
When just to go back to the Ed Boys, because like I said, this is such a fascinating show. You said Naz was one of the characters you guys just did not like, or did not like to write because she was difficult. Were there another character that might have been not as equally difficult, but just like, fuck, I don't want to write Kevin today, or insert whoever?
No, I don't think so. They're all so unique that it was always really fun to write. The only reason Naz was so hard to write was because she was so ununique of the character. She was just your stereotypical dumb blonde girl, right? Very stereotype, very on the nose. And for that reason, she was difficult to write. Like, it was kind of like, what can we do with her? Well, nothing. The more here's a lesson for people. When you're trying to build a character or develop a character, the more fucked up that character is, the funner it is to write, because nobody wants to see, I often equate it, Mickey Mouse is a great example. Nobody wants to see a cartoon with 3 Mickey Mouse and no Donald Duck. Nobody, because there's no dynamic, there's no tension, there's no drama, there's no nothing. If you have 3 Mickey Mouses and they're all being nice to each other, that's boring. You throw Donald Duck in, he's an asshole, and suddenly there's tension, there's story, there's things happening, there's chaos and stuff, and people not getting along, and that's how you create good stories, good characters, good situations, and wind people up and suck them in. So Naz was that character that you just like, okay, dumb blonde, it's been done a million times. Like, what more do we say with this that hasn't already been said? And there wasn't much. She was kind of like one of those characters that really didn't pop like the rest of them do, which is too bad. I mean, she had a few funny moments, but the other characters were so hilarious and so unique in their own ways and had their own voices and stuff that I feel she didn't get enough justice. We probably should have spent a little bit more time trying to make her into more, but she just kind of served her purpose, and that was it.
Hey man, I mean, I got laughs at Rolf, and you can get a laugh at anybody. I mean, it's good on you, but I mean, like I said, he just stole the show every time he was on. But
I agree.
Speaking of the 3 Ed Boys, though, which one was difficult to write for, or were they all pretty much you could just slip those shoes on?
I don't think any of them were difficult to write. All 3 of them were very funny, and again, because all 3 were so different and had such different motivations, they really should not have been friends, other than the fact that they had the same name. Literally, and I think that was kind of done intentionally, because if it was Ed, George, and Tom, they would have never been friends. You know what I mean? The fact they had the same names and they were so different kept them together, and again, those differences and the way they grated on each other's nerves all the time with all the different things that they used to do was really funny, and it's such an amazing inspiration for stories when you have those differences and when you have all that stuff just colliding all the time. That's how you make great cartoons. It's not by making everyone cool and smart and fun. It's by making everybody assholes, like, literally. And then, they have to have redeeming qualities, of course, and they have to have heart and stuff so you can sympathize with them and be on their side. Like, you know, Eddy was the biggest dick of them all, but you still felt sorry for Eddy because you knew someone like Eddy. He's always hustling and always trying to make a buck, and you know, kind of shady all the time. And you knew somebody like that, you know?
The get rich quick scheme.
Yes, the guy who's the Tony Robbins guy, you know what I mean? He's always looking for the shortcut, the easy way. Never wanted to work hard, but like was expecting a sack of loot to drop out of the sky all the time.
I mean, shit, you know, it's the American dream, I guess.
It kind of is. I agree.
I'm pretty sure you guys have been asked this numerous times, and I always try not to ask you guys the same shit because it gets boring.
Sure.
But there are some things that I just have to ask because I'm generally curious. What was the Jawbreaker fascination? Was that something that was in his childhood, or was that ever something that was discussed? I'm sure it was.
Jawbreakers, I don't know why specifically Jawbreakers, that particular candy. I all I know is that, or the one reference I remember from Danny talking about it was he just thought it was a funny visual having this big lump on the side of your face. Yeah. And also he liked the idea that Jawbreakers change colors and they change the color of your tongue. Mm-hmm. So even in the original drawings, I remember seeing from the Bible and stuff, like they always were running with their tongues hanging out of their mouths, and they were all terrible, like all these weird colors and stuff. And I just thought, you know, I don't know specifically why Jawbreakers, but Jawbreaker is extremely kid-like. It's just too big for your goddamn mouth. You're going to choke on it. It colors your tongue. It's a pain in the ass. It takes 3 hours to dissolve. It's just something only a kid would do, because everyone else would think this is stupid. Like, why can't I just, you know, have a chocolate bar and be done with it? No, I got to keep this thing in my mouth for 2 hours and wait patiently for it to dissolve. Like, I don't know. I just find it kid-like and dumb. And I think that's why. I mean, we're always looking for kid-like and dumb and really gravitating towards dumb things that kids do, you know? Because we all did it, and our kids do it, and it's just, you just laugh, just shake your head, you go, you dumb shit, and then you move on, right?
I've always heard with you guys, by you guys I mean the creative types that make cartoons or that makes art, or, you know, does anything that's creative. You always say, and the best ones, you always hear, I left a little piece of me, or this took a little piece out of me, or I put a little piece of myself in this. When you sit back and you think about all these episodes you've written and all these characters you've written with this show, can you point out a piece of you that you left inside this universe?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is still to this day, I think, probably my favorite thing I've ever written, ever, in any show, anything I've ever done. And it's in an Ed and Eddy, in one of the specials. It was in the Christmas special. Sure. And it was Rolf's song about meat. He sings this song to Yeshmayak, which is like the goddess who lives under the earth in his Christmas traditions. And it's all about food and making food and eating. But if you don't work your ass off, this troll who lives underground and provides the feast, she's going to throw you into the pot and cook you with the feast so everybody gets to eat you. And it's so dark and crazy and nuts. And it was based on, like, I just remember my own family traditional feasts and stuff, like, you know, for Christmas we'd have a carp. What the hell, a carp? Like, what is that, you know? And I'm going to school, you know, as a kid, you know, everyone's like, turkey dinner this, turkey dinner that, or roast prime rib, you know, and I'm like, well, we had carp, and everyone's like, what the hell, where the hell are you from, right? So all of those weird moments of like eating the wrong food was kind of all put into that, and all the immigrant stuff and all the weird family stuff, and I wrote this song called the Yeshmayak song that Rolf sings, and to this day I think of all the things I ever written, that was the most directly just kind of my perspective on being the immigrant, what that's like, or growing up in an immigrant family. And it was one of my favorites, still to this day, my favorite thing I ever wrote. I just love it. It's funny. It always makes me laugh. I play it every Christmas just to give myself a laugh. It's just something I enjoy to this day still.
Now be honest, when ringtones were a big thing on phones, did you Did you hold your phone up and record this? So you
No, but I did have the Ed, Ed and Eddy whistle as a ringtone at one point. Yeah,
yeah.
the theme song was a ringtone at one time. No lie.
So speaking of, the carp and everything like that, what was your favorite dish when you guys would have when you came over here and had Christmas and Thanksgiving and your parents started, getting, I guess the American, way of living or the American holidays? What was your favorite dish that your mom or dad or your grandparents or any of your family would make from where you guys came from in the Czech Republic?
Um,
I'm pretty sure it
God,
wasn't
there's
carp.
so many. My mom was an amazing, or still is an amazing cook, and she used to make all the traditional Czech foods. There's stuff called svíčková, which is like a meat with gravy and dumplings and stuff. And if you ever find yourself in the Czech Republic, it's something you will be eating pretty much every day because it's one of the best things you'll ever eat. And there was also the baking. My mom would make something called kolač, which is very much like a fruit cobbler, and just the stews and the soups and stuff, and everything was like dumplings and gravy, and I mean it was like a meat and potatoes kind of meal. It definitely stick to your ribs kind of meal. But yeah, it was all very good, all very traditional. I just remember one of my favorite things when I was a kid, because I got it so rarely, I was only allowed to eat it so rarely, was like Kraft dinner, Kraft macaroni and cheese, because my parents were like, what is this crap, right? You're not eating this, we don't know what this is, right? So anytime I could sneak, like go to a friend's house and they had like Kraft dinner or hot dogs or something, like, oh yeah, I'd be like so fucking stoked. Give me that Kraft single, I want to eat processed food, I don't know what that is. Squeezing Velveeta and a celery stick, because I never ate that. My mom used to make everything from scratch. I was like desperate for McDonald's.
I love, so I've working in this industry and working in your industry, I'm pretty sure you get an abundance of different people. And you like you said, being from first generation American, so you get to see all of this crazy stuff. And we just had before we all got let go, and then we all got to come back and all this other stuff. I used to work with this guy, and he was from Venezuela, and this was his first Thanksgiving last year. It was his first Thanksgiving in the States, and he comes up to me, and then we would communicate, like we take our phone, Google Translate works fantastic, because I know some Spanish, but I can't hold a conversation. There's certain words I can pick out and like, okay, I know where this is going, type of thing. But most of our communication, until we could either, broken English and broken Spanish on my side, communicate, was through that. So, I get a text saying, hey, what's an American Thanksgiving? So I sent him pictures, and I sent him a picture of one of my favorite dishes, which is green bean casserole. And he looks at it and he's like, what is this shit? Me. He was like, this all comes from a can. This is what this picture looks like. And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah. And he was like, this is why Americans are fat. And he hung up on me. Like, Jesus Christ, you asked me what's an American Thanksgiving, what's a traditional American dish. I tell you, you shit on me and my food, and then you don't talk to me no more. So
oh, dude, that's such an immigrant thing. Like, I can't tell you, growing up with all the the immigrant uncles and aunts and parents and stuff like that, and they'd always say, and I grew up in Canada, so it's like, you and those Canadians and your running shoes and your macaroni and cheese, and it's like, yeah, running shoes are killer. They're good. They're comfortable on your feet. What I got to walk around in fucking wooden clogs? Like, what the hell is this? Like, I want running shoes and macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
I'm freaking, like, they just didn't understand. The food was like, there's actually a very funny scene in one of the very first Ed, Ed and Eddy episodes where Rolf sees, I think, and this is exactly on point to what you're talking about. Jimmy brings a dish to a picnic, a potluck.
Yeah.
And I think he brings, I don't remember what it was, like candied yams or something like that. And Rolf takes one look at it, goes, it's like, it's the food of the blah, 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 and he runs away, right? And that is exactly what you're talking about. It's like, what the hell are you eating? It's terrifying because it comes from a can and they don't understand that.
I wish more people would. So, green bean casserole is just fantastic. But mac and cheese, anybody can. If you think of the American diet, you think of cheeseburger. It's funny because I ask people what they think of when they think of American food, and they always say shit that's not ours. They'll say pizza, tacos, cheeseburger. None of this stuff came from us, but we just took it to a whole new level. The only thing that I think we can honestly say that we created because of our waistlines was mac and cheese. And it's one of those things that everybody that comes here and they try, they're like, holy shit, this stuff in a box isn't too bad. We're getting towards the end, and I don't want to keep you too much longer.
Oh yeah, no worries.
I always try to end the podcast with a couple questions. Depending on whoever I'm talking to, it's the same form of the question. But when it's all said and done, you've sharpened your last pencil, you've typed your last key, right, for whatever script you're working on. When you hear the term Ed, and Eddy, what are some of the first thoughts that come to mind, or what comes out of you when you hear that term?
A lot of different stuff. I mean, certainly some nostalgia. It was a very fun time. It's where I learned how to be, who I am as far as a writer, and kind of got my chops and learned how to do my trade. I remember all the amazing people I worked with, John O'Howard, Rachel Connor, Daniel Siwi, all the artists, Big Jim and Toomey and Woody and Scott and all those guys. And I mean, it was just a really fun time. I mean, it was hard. Danny's a very difficult guy to work for. There's no denying that. And we really didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were grossly underpaid for sure, but we didn't know that either. But it was just fun. And I think of those characters, and I just think, I'm brought, Ed, and Eddy comes to the forefront of my mind because of people like you. Yeah. I run into people. I wear this shirt. It's weird, actually. It's this shirt that does it every time. I'll be out in public in this shirt, and some 20-something-year-old will come up to me and go, "Plank, I love that show, Ed, and Eddy, blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, someone is looking at my shirt and going crazy about this show that they loved so much that they got to tell me about it. And they don't even know that I wrote on it. Like a lot of their memories is probably stuff that I came up with in my head. And I typically, I'm cool. It's great meeting a fan. Love, that's awesome. I'm a big fan of the show too. I don't really tip my hat too often, unless I'm with my wife, in which case she's like, "Oh, him, he wrote on the show," and I'm like, and me and the kids are like, "Oh no," right? Because it's so embarrassing.
Always great.
She's just like that.
Wives are fantastic. They do two things really great. They're always, depending on how well you are with your wife, me especially, it sounds like you as well, they're always your biggest supporters, right? They always, you can go. No, you need to quit being a bitch. You need to tighten up. You need to get on this because you wanted to do this. You're going to do this, right? And then they're the ones that bust balls harder than
and embarrass you.
But they do it because they love you, right?
Yes, I get that.
You never feel like it's malicious, and I always love that, because no matter how big my ego might be at any point in time, I've got two people back here that tell me I ain't shit most of the time. My kid being one of them. I told this story with Matt Hill, so if you guys are watching on the second podcast, I'm sorry, but it's okay. So he just competed in his first karate tournament ever, and it's the first one since COVID. So it was a very small tournament, and he got first place in it, and point sparring and all this other stuff, right? So I come home, and then same ritual or whatever it is, same ritual at night, hug, kiss, good night, love you, see you tomorrow type of thing, right? And I go upstairs, I make sure he's tucked in, because he's got this tendency where he'll kick all the blankets off of him, and then he'll just be sitting there and he's shivering and shit. So do the dad thing, tuck him in. And I go to tuck him in, and my hand hits something. I look down, and it's this huge fucking trophy he just got that he's sleeping with in his bed. My kid's pretty tall for his age, so he's height's running on both sides of the family. And so he's right at 5 foot at a 10-year-old, right? So the trophy is about 3 to 4 inches shorter than him. So he's almost as big as his trophy, or the trophy's almost as big as him. And so I remember taking it out, and then the next night, same thing. He was sleeping with his trophy again. And then a couple days later, he found out when they released all the statistics for the fight and everything like that for the state, he was 6th in the state. Now, my kid is I don't know what he's going to do when he gets older. It always changes. He wants to be a ninja one day. Then he wants to be a shark diver the next day. Then he wants to go
Sure.
dinosaurs. So it's always changing. But one thing is always consistent. If this kid wants to do something as far as the comedic route, in my opinion, he's got the chops. I'm not easy to make laugh, but I'm also not hard to make laugh. And are you a Bruce Lee fan at all? Have you ever watched any of his movies?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
You know that pose he's got where he looks like a flying squirrel, his lats are all coming out. So a couple days after he got his trophy, they released the point statistics for all the kids, and he found out he was 6th in the state. Right. So I tell him, go upstairs. Hey man, clean the cat litter. Right. Your cat, you need to scoop the cat litter. And I just hear him saying something like, "What'd you say?" And he was like, "I'm 6th in the state. I'm 6th in the state." And he's just walking upstairs, looking like little Bruce Lee. And I'm like, "Well, you can be 6th in the state and go clean the cat shit up, right?" So it was my chance to humble him because he does it to me consistently, you know. But nonetheless, right? So this has been such a fun talk. Hopefully, we can do it again soon. I would love to have all of you guys on at one time. I'm working on all of you guys individual. A lot of you guys are working on a lot of stuff and hard to track down, but it's coming along slowly. I've had such a fun childhood because of all the shit you wrote, all the stuff Danny came up with, all the stuff you guys collectively did, man. I get this shirt alone, this one and the old school Nickelodeon one I have with Rocco and everybody else on there, from Hey Arnold to the Fatheads from Rocco. You know, this shirt and that shirt, or the two shirts, go, oh man, I love that shirt. It's the first thing, because you can honestly see either a fan or somebody being transported 20 years in the past.
Yeah.
They connected with, whether it was a cartoon, a television show, whatever it had, and you had such a huge part in that. And like I said, I want to take this time just to thank you and thank everybody else that has had such a huge part of my childhood, and now my adulthood, and now even my child's childhood. Right? So I can't thank you guys enough, man. I really appreciate it. You guys have given me so many laughs. And I can't thank you guys enough for that.
Well, thank you so much. As like I've said already 100 times, it's always an amazing pleasure to meet a fan, and thank you for validating everything we do. I mean, our goal was to make people laugh, make kids specifically, make kids laugh, and apparently we were able to do that. So win all the way around, right?
You guys made us laugh. You made us cry with some of these characters because of laughter. And you guys, when it's all said and done, you know, you gave me what you think of when you think of Ed, Edd and Eddy. You know, when it's all said and done, and who am I then other than just a fan? This might be the greatest cartoon that Cartoon Network has ever or will ever put on TV, right? And a lot of that has to go with you and Danny and everybody else that had such a huge part in this show. And like I said, thank you again. Is there anything that you're working on, or is there anything that you're putting out, a book, a movie, something that we can help promote, you know, that you're working on?
Well, always working on stuff, but nothing anywhere near to the time where I would be pushing it or shopping it. But I'm always open to people if they want to ask questions or, you know, want to reach out or something. And, you know, I'm always open to fans and stuff. So it doesn't matter what I'm working on.
Where can people find you so we can drive some traffic to your page? Where can they find you?
Sure. I can be found at mikekubat.com. There's all sorts of contact information in there. You can always shoot me an email or something through the webpage. And then, of course, you can look me up on the traditional IMDb websites and stuff like that, so you can see my credits and stuff. But yeah, if you want to reach me, just go to my webpage and shoot me an email and I'll get back to you.
That's essentially how it would, ladies and gentlemen, that's how easy it is. If you guys want to sit here and thank Mike, you want to thank Danny, you want to thank
bring me the adulation. Come on, tell me more about myself.
I mean, I gotta say, you said it earlier, you guys had the hate mail. Hey, before I let you go, I want to know, is there anything you specifically remember? I always love hearing what people hate on. Is there anything that you remember or anything that comes to mind when you think of that hate mail collage that you guys had hanging up on the refrigerator or wherever it was hanging up?
There's two good moments. I'll tell them both to you. The first one is the collage itself. There was a classroom, I believe, in the little town called Lynette. I think it's called Lynette, Washington, and it was a classroom of like first graders, like 30 first graders, and their teacher got every kid in the class to write us a hate mail letter. we got like a stack of like 38 mail, all from one classroom of kids. So that was figured prominently on the wall. So that was always one of my favorite things. And the other thing is, I was coaching soccer when my oldest daughter was a lot younger. I was coaching AYSO, and I remember at one point I had to get a ride with one of the moms to a game or something, and so I'm in the front seat with one of the moms with the kids on my team, and the girls are in the back, of course, the girls on the team. And someone mentioned something about Ed, and Eddy in the back. And this mom goes, "Oh my God, I hate that show. That show just sucks. Those kids are mean. There's nothing redeeming about this show." And I could just see like the girl's daughter in the back who knew I worked on the show. She's like going, like she was just mortified. And to this day, I just laugh about that. That was like one of my favorite moments.
There's no better way to end this now than you getting 30 misspelled hate mail first graders that are probably written on crayon. And at this point, it's no different than social media for any hate mail, because you would think all of these people write in crayon. And you're sitting there, you're giving up your free time. You're not getting paid to teach somebody a sport. And they're going to sit here and attack your livelihood.
I know. Well, let's just say it's a good thing there's way more of you than them.
I mean, even if there's not, I'm pretty sure all you have to do is put that bat signal up in the air, that Ed signal in the air. We'll unite. We'll kick the shit out of all these people that have anything to say. And then once again, the nerds will reign supreme. Brother,
excellent.
I got to say, man, it's been fun. I thank you again. I thank you 1,000 times over for this cartoon.
Thank you.
And I look forward to talking to you